Hi everyone, it's Marianne. So for today's video, I'm sharing with you my fall plant care routine, what I'm doing different now that fall has started, and share with you 5 things that I think we need to be doing now that the fall season has kicked off and the cold season is about to start and we need to prep our plants for the changing weather. Thank you so much for joining me today. And fall is a favorite season of many. It is my favorite, but it's probably not the best time for our houseplants. I mean, it's not as bad as winter, but usually when we're transitioning into seasons, like from winter to spring, summer to fall, it can be a tricky time for our houseplants and for ourselves as well as we manage to change up our plant care routine, especially if you live in a northern region like I do. And everyone has their own strategies and techniques to transition their plants into the fall and eventually the winter season. But here are 5 things that I think each one of us can definitely do no matter where we are to help our plants transition to a colder weather. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel, hi, my name is Marianne. Welcome to My Wasteless Life, where I take you along my houseplant journey and share with you some of my tips and tricks along the way. I also share lifestyle content that is focused on sustainability, wellness, productivity, and also share with you some of my personal and travel vlogs here and there. So if that type of content interests you, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel before the end of this video, and also make sure to like and comment down below. I would love to hear from you, especially on how you're planning to transition your plants from summer to fall. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. First thing I do to transition my houseplants into the fall season is to repot my houseplants. And this is not for every single plant that I have. It is just for those who need it. And for me, I did put a lot of plants outdoors, so they have grown a lot. And some of them I even planted on the ground in my tropical bed. So for those, I had to dig up, decide which ones I'm going to keep and repot them. And some of the plants that had really grown, I also did repot them. And some of my indoor plants did require it, but not so much. It's mostly my outdoor plants. You can definitely repot the entire year round, even during the winter season. For me personally, I just don't like it because it's hard to repot plants indoors, but I do it when it's necessary. And second, I know my plants do struggle when I plant them over the winter season and the weather is really cold. It just gives them a hard time to adjust, even if I provide them with grow lights, humidifier, or a heater just to give them an artificial environment. But for me personally, no matter how well we can recreate a artificial environment for them to thrive in, it's really not comparable to what they're getting over the summer or growing season, but more on that later. Second is pest management, and this thing is also a year-round situation, but I personally noticed that when the seasons are transitioning or changing, like again from winter to spring and summer to fall, that is when my pest infestation is really rampant. Like I experienced spider mites in a couple of my plants, like one of them especially with my Apropanum pinnatum, and I also experienced scales in my Thicon monstera. And especially during this time of year, spider mites are really rampant. I've also heard from other plant parents that their plants are experiencing spider mites, and it's likely due to because of the changing weather, and also we're starting to use our heaters or turn on our space heaters, and with the drier air comes with a drop in the humidity levels, and that is where spider mites thrive. So we really need to watch out for those pesky little things. And for me, when it comes to pest management, prevention and early detection is key. So it's always good to constantly inspecting your plants, especially during this time of year. And some plant parents like to be proactive and spray all their plants with neem oil spray or insecticidal soap. But there's a debate on whether it's actually good for our plants or not to spray them with insecticidal or neem oil spray when they don't actually need it. So for me, I don't do that because for me, it is kind of a lot of work. And second, I err on the side of those who think that it's probably not good for our plants to be sprayed with insecticidal soap or neem oil spray on a regular basis when they don't need it. So what I do instead is step number 3 is to wash the foliage of my plants. I often do this when I have to water my plants anyways. I wash down the leaves or wipe them down when necessary, and that's also usually when I detect early signs of pest presence in the leaves of my houseplants, because usually they sneak underneath the leaves or in the petiole of the leaves, and it's really hard to see them if you're not really inspecting or paying close attention to the foliage. So for me, not only cleaning the foliage on my houseplants help remove the dust buildup on the leaves, which kind of prevents the photosynthesis or hinder the photosynthesis process of my houseplants, it also helps with pest management. And I typically only use water to clean the foliage of my houseplants before I buy into using the lemon juice or coconut oil. I stopped doing that as well because I don't think it's great for our houseplants. Water is fine. Sometimes soapy water is great when you need to wipe down the plants if you don't have neem oil spray or insecticidal soap to do it. But other than that, I just stick to water when it comes to cleaning the foliage of my houseplants, and it works great. And if you're using soapy water to clean the foliage of your houseplants, you can just use a mild liquid soap or Castile soap, mix it with water, and you could use paper towel or a microfiber cloth, whichever one you prefer. Dip it in the soapy water, squeeze it, and use that to wipe the foliage of your houseplants one by one. And I usually just do this for my plants that has very large foliage. For the ones that have smaller foliage, it's just easier to just hose them down. So I just bring them to my bathroom, put them in the bathtub, turn on the shower, and just like hose them down. And the fourth thing that we need to be doing to transition our plants properly into the growing season is if we have plants outdoors, then we need to properly transition them back indoors. So if we have plants outdoors, it's time to start bringing them back in during the night, especially when the temperature drops below 55 degrees. And when we do so, it's important to isolate them at first with the plants that are already indoors so that in case of any pest infestation, it's not going to jump from your plants that were outdoors to the plants that are indoors and vice versa. And once the weather starts consistently getting cold, like in my area, so all my plants are back indoors. And at first I did isolate them with the rest of my indoor plants, but as you can see now in my background, a lot of them are incorporated and together with the rest of my indoor house plants. And a couple of other things that you need to prepare for as you put your plants back indoors is one, figuring out where to put them, and second, making sure they're still getting ample light since they're no longer outside. For me, that process involves me taking stock of my entire plant collection, seeing the ones that I want to keep or give away or sell. And also when I was repotting my plants, I figured out which plants I could pot up together in order to save space. And when it comes to providing lighting for our houseplants, one thing that we can do is to make sure they are next to the windows but not pressed up to it so that they're not getting the cold draft, or use grow lights. Like as you can see the setup that I have here, I have a grow light underneath this table where I have some plants underneath as well, and the lighting that I have up here is pointed towards my houseplants. And the number 5 thing we need to do to help our plants transition to the fall season is to change up their watering and fertilizing schedule. Now, this is not something that happens overnight, and again, people have different takes on this one, but this is a gradual process and not something that we just switch up the next day. When it comes to watering, right now, I'm still watering my plants with the same level of frequency, although I did notice with my larger house plants, I have been watering them a lot less frequent. But for my smaller plants, I'm still watering them the same. And when it comes to fertilizing, some people like to fertilize all throughout the winter season, even when their plants go into dormancy. But for me, I do stop my fertilizing at some point. And there's really no hard and fast rule for me when it comes to when I stop fertilizing my houseplants. It's usually just when the fertilizer that I've been using runs out, and somehow it's usually just around the end of the growing season. And I just don't replenish my fertilizer supply until the next growing season. And for other plant parents, they do fertilize their plants whole year round. Like I said, it's a personal preference. A rationale is they're providing an artificial environment for their houseplants to continue to thrive and not go into dormancy by like giving them grow lights, humidifier, and even putting them up in greenhouses or grow tents. But in my own humble opinion, that's still not quite enough to mimic the kind of environment that they get over the summer unless your setup is really something professional and all of that. But again, that's all subjective and a matter of preference. But for me, with the number of houseplants that I have and the type of houseplants that I have, and knowing that they do go into dormancy during the winter season, I don't feel the need to fertilize my houseplants. I just focus on giving them the proper amount of light and making sure their watering schedule is on point. That is the gist of my fall plant care routine and the top 5 things that I think all plant parents should be doing to help their plants transition from summer into fall. And there are things that I probably didn't include or specifically didn't mention in this video because I really just want to mention the top 5 things that any plant parent could do or should be doing to help their plants to transition from summer into fall. But if you think there are some other things that's a must do for any plant parent, please share them down in the comments below. And in upcoming weeks, I will definitely have more videos on fall to winter plant care, where I'll be digging into some of those issues or topics and tips and tricks that I didn't mention in this video. So if there's anything that you want me to cover when it comes to fall and winter plant care, also share them down in the comments. I would love to hear from you so I can include them in future videos. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, please do subscribe. I come up with videos every week. And if you're feeling extra generous and want to give me extra support, please do consider sending me super thanks. The button is down below. Any super thanks you send me will go back to this channel to help me create more and better videos for you all. And if you haven't yet, check out these videos up here. Until my next one. But until then, I see you. I appreciate you. Take care of yourself and each other and have a plentiful day. Bye.